My father gave me the ultimatum at midnight, standing in the kitchen with his arms crossed and a voice like cold stone. He said, "You apologize to your sister, or you don't stay here." He didn't ask what happened. He didn't care that she was the one who had lied. I was being kicked out of my childhood home not because I was wrong, but because I refused to be the punching bag for his favorite child anymore. I thought losing my family would be the end of my world. I didn't realize it was actually the first day of my life. The air in my father's kitchen was thick with a tension that had been building for 20 years. My father stood under the harsh fluorescent light, looking at me not as a daughter, but as a disruption to his carefully curated peace. He had always been a man of rules, but the rules only seemed to apply to me. My sister, Maya, was the golden child, the one whose mistakes were always my fault and whose laughter was the only soundtrack he cared to hear. "You apologize," my dad said, his voice flat and final. I looked past him into the living room, where Maya was lounging on the sofa, her phone glowing in her hand, a small, triumphant smirk playing on her lips. This latest explosion had started because I dared to correct her politely when she told our father I was the reason her son had missed his school bus. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't insulted her. I had simply stated the truth. I wasn't even home when the bus came. But in this house, truth was a secondary currency. The primary currency was Maya's comfort. "I'm not apologizing for something I didn't do, Dad," I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. I'd been staying there temporarily while my new apartment was being renovated, but I realized in that moment that temporary had actually meant until I remembered my place. Nobody talks about this pain, the crushing weight of realizing your parent is willing to sacrifice your dignity just to keep a liar happy. It's a relatable loneliness to stand in the home that raised you and realize you are the only one who doesn't belong. You spend years swallowing your words so things won't be awkward, only to realize the awkwardness was the only thing keeping you tethered to a lie. I walked to my room and packed my life into 2 suitcases while the sound of Maya's sitcom played in the background. I thought I was heading into the dark, but I didn't know that my father's ultimatum was about to trigger a series of events that would strip Maya of her mask and leave my father begging for the daughter he'd just discarded. I left at 1 a.m. The streetlights of our suburban New Jersey neighborhood looked like cold, unblinking eyes as I loaded my car. My father didn't come to the door. He didn't even look out the window. He stayed in that kitchen, protecting the silence he valued more than his own child. I drove to a motel, the neon sign buzzing in rhythm with the ache in my chest. The next morning, the silence was deafening. No one called. No one texted to see if I had found a place to sleep. I realized then that my role in the family had been that of an emotional sacrificial lamb. As long as I was there to take the blame, Maya could be perfect and my father could be a hero. Without me, the dynamic was bound to shift, but I didn't expect it to happen so fast. I threw myself into my work, using the anger as fuel. I stopped checking the family group chat. I stopped paying the shared phone bill that Maya had forgotten to contribute to for 6 months. I realized that by being the responsible one, I had been subsidizing my own mistreatment. For the first time, I looked at my bank account and saw freedom instead of a burden. I was finally building a life where I didn't have to apologize for existing. Nobody talks about the heartbreak of realizing you were only loved when you were useful. The silent struggle of being the fixer in a family of breakers is an exhausting, invisible labor. You realize that your place was never in their hearts, it was under their feet, acting as a rug to hide the dirt they refused to clean up. 2 weeks later, my phone finally lit up. It wasn't an apology. It was a frantic message from my father demanding to know why the internet and Netflix had been cut off at the house. He was about to find out that when you kick out the person who holds everything together, the walls start to crumble faster than you can shout "I'm sorry." The messages from my father grew increasingly aggressive, then gradually turned into a strange, sideways form of pleading. "Maya is stressed," he wrote. "The kid is acting out because you're not here to help. Just come back, say sorry, and we can go back to normal." But normal was exactly what I was running from. Normal was Maya spending money she didn't have and me covering the deficit. Normal was my father looking at me like a problem to be contained while Maya was a prize to be protected. I had changed the passwords to all the accounts I paid for. I had redirected my mail. I had even contacted the landlord of my dad's house, who happened to be an old family friend, to let him know I would no longer be the primary contact for repairs. Within a month, the golden life Maya was living started to tarnish. Without me to blame for her missed appointments and late bills, she turned her chaos on our father. He called me one evening, his voice sounding older, tired. "She's screaming at me, Sarah," he whispered. "She says I'm the reason her life is falling apart because I let you leave." I sat in my new, quiet apartment, looking at the city lights. "No, Dad," I said calmly. "She's screaming at you because for the first time in 20 years, there's no one else in the room to point the finger at." Nobody talks about the pain of watching a parent realize they picked the wrong side. It's a relatable heartbreak to want to save them, but to know that if you do, you'll be drowning right back alongside them. The silent struggle of maintaining a boundary is a war you fight with your own guilt every single day. Maya showed up at my new apartment a week later. She didn't come to apologize. She came to demand. She stood in the hallway with her kid, looking for the person she'd always been able to manipulate. She didn't realize that the girl who used to stay quiet so things wouldn't be awkward had finally found her voice, and she was about to use it to shut the door for good. Maya looked at me with a mixture of shock and entitlement. "You did this on purpose," she hissed, gesturing at her disheveled appearance. "I did it deliberately," I replied. "There's a difference." I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel the need to fix her life. I didn't feel the need to explain myself. I realized that my sister wasn't fragile, she was a consequence of a father who refused to hold her accountable. "I'm not asking you to suffer, Maya," I said, standing tall in my own doorway. "I'm asking you to take responsibility for yourselves." She laughed, that short, bitter sound I knew so well. "You think you're better than us now?" I shook my head. "No. I just think I'm done being smaller." She turned and left, her heels clicking on the tile just as they had that night in the kitchen. My father tried to reach out one last time, an apology that sounded more like a negotiation. "Sorry things got out of hand," he said. I felt pushed. But he never said sorry for being the one who pushed me. I didn't move back. I didn't reopen the accounts. I stayed in the life I had built, a life where the ground stayed under my feet because I was the one who laid the foundation. Nobody talks about this pain, the realization that you have to lose your family to find your peace. We are taught that blood is thicker than water, but sometimes blood is just the excuse people use to bleed you dry. The silent struggle of being the scapegoat ends the moment you refuse to play the role. Healing begins when you realize that an apology you are forced to give is just another form of chains. Your value isn't determined by how much of someone else's chaos you can carry. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to be the problem in their story if it means being the hero in your own. Don't be afraid to leave the golden cage. The air out here is much easier to breathe. I didn't lose my father that night, I whispered to myself, looking at the empty space on my wall where a family photo used to hang. I lost the version of myself that was waiting for him to love me more than he loved the lie.
Echoes in the dark, your voice still hums, a tune that